Sometimes a little comfort food can go a long way. Building a little bonfire at night on the beach and lying on a blanket with my wife under the stars is not only sexy, it's romantic. As far as I know, you only get one shot at this life. It only goes round once and time is precious. When I'm not working, you'd better spend that time with someone important. I've always said that Miguel Piñero's story is a quintessential American tale. An immigrant who comes to this country is immediately marginalized to the lowest economic level and persecuted because of his skin color and, in spite of all the obstacles put in his way, he becomes a huge popular success. My mother's a Peruvian Indian from Lima who raised me and my 4 brothers and sisters as a single mom. I'm used to the fact that the world views movie actors as personalities. I'm in the extremely fortunate position of making a living at something I'm passionate about. It's all about choices. By the nature of what I do, I make a choice. I invite them in. I think a lot of us often don't express how we really feel because we're afraid of what others might think of us. So we secretly admire people who could care less. They do things that we don't allow ourselves to do. I find myself enjoying a deeper love than I ever imagined was possible in the form of my daughter and certainly in the union with my wife. It makes everything else, including work, which is one of the things I'm most passionate about, pale by comparison. I have always been of the mind that good work is good work, whether performed on stage, on television, or in film, and, like any reasonable actor, I keep my options open. Fraternity life, for me, really was about cheap rent and 3 square. We live in a society that, for the most part, is morally and spiritually bankrupt. Our culture is a culture of consumerism. How sustainable is that? I think all actors are on the constant search for a real challenge just to keep things interesting. I think film and television actually is a lot harder. Acting on stage is physically more arduous, but to get to emotional truth within a scene, it's much tougher to do it on film. I've always felt that acting is acting, at the end of the day. So whether you're doing comedy or heavy drama or anything else in between, you always have to bring a semblance of honesty to it. It's all make-believe. I count it as a major victory to not only be on a series that's had a full season run, but to actually be on one that's gotten picked up for a second season. I think there's a settled quality. There's a gravitas that comes with aging and with being a parent because you certainly come to recognize that there's nothing else that takes greater priority than raising your children. I'm not an aristocrat. I have no idea what that is. I drove a blue and yellow super shuttle van for 2 10-hour shifts on the weekend after a week at ACT of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. I wasn't surviving too much. My brother Peter was always the life of the party, and so the running joke for the first 12 years of my life was he was Pete, and I was Repeat. I've always approached acting from a very workmanlike perspective. I'm oftentimes called away from my family. It's rather hard for me to be away from them. We're very close. I find that most of us actors can't stand ourselves in any form. The whole thing about acting, the draw for me, is the opportunity to do things you don't get to do in real life. Film and television essentially feel the same when you're doing it, because it's the same technical approach. My brother and I used to collect comic books in San Francisco. I have no particular career agenda. I've never given a bad audition in my life. Well, for me, the real excitement of doing physical things in films, whether you're talking about a fight scene or a stunt sequence or even a love scene, for that matter, is by necessity it has to be choreographed very much like a dance. That being said, you have to rehearse it over and over again and find a mathematical precision. It's an amazing blessing to do something you love. My sense of personal strength has always come from my family. I come from a large family, so you can count on the fact that I'm going to have more kids. I wasn't terribly aware of Catwoman. She was a DC Comics character, and as a kid, I wasn't terribly fond of the DC Comics characters. I was a Marvel boy. The funny thing as an actor is that you show up on the set, and your key goal really is to make the scenes that you're involved in honest and real. You're not concerned with the technical aspect of things. And then you sit in the movie theater, and you watch it with everyone else. You realize that, man, this is pretty exciting. I've played Latin-looking spiv, third from the right, so many times I can't count. The first car I ever owned was an Italian sports car, a convertible, and I've kind of owned everything under the sun since then. I've played a lot of cop parts. I don't really consider myself to be an actor of any particular style. My aim with every role I undertake is to be truthful and honest in that particular portrayal. I don't have a particular methodology from any one school of thought or training. Your job as an actor is to stay employed. I've made a career over the last 17 years of mostly playing men in uniform, especially cops. The one thing for an actor that is death is if you're bored. The boredom will show in your work. I used to work in Starbucks. The one thing for an actor that is complete death is if you're bored, because that boredom will show in your work. I've had a terrible career. I love doing voiceover work.